People would echo those thoughts. We're joined now by Dr. Catherine Mannix, who's a former palliative care consultant and author. Catherine, very good morning to you. Those names of those people we were speaking to in that report, Megan, Kirsten, Ruth, and they are all saying the same thing, which is somebody doing what Deborah has done so publicly and so openly and so honestly is massively impacting on people trying to deal with similar things.
Yeah, it is so important, isn't it? And for me, Deborah has been an absolute thought leader in this, because what she's done is demonstrated two journeys, really. There's been her public dancing, sparkly journey of hope and encouragement and dancing in corridors. And behind the scenes, there has been Deborah knowing that she wouldn't outrun this in the end, and needing to come to terms with that and finding that and being very honest about finding that very frightening. So early on in the podcast, You, Me and the Big C, they very courageously did an episode on death and dying, and all of these are available on their podcasts. And at that point, Rachel Bland, who was one of the three instigators of the podcast, was talking about knowing she was on borrowed time. She was in the position then that Deborah is in now. And speaking about getting things ready, how she would put things in place for her son to be able to remember her. And Deborah was representing, I think, the public voice in saying, that is so sad and so frightening. I can't bear to look at it. I can't bear to think about it. I don't know how you can be so brave. And over the next 4 years, she's gradually done that journey. I've spoken to her a couple of times about it, where she's gradually moved into, well, what if and how am I going to manage this? And now we know that she's decided where to be at her parents' home and not her own home, that her concern is to be with the people she loves most, her parents, her husband and her children, and to put things in place, the writing of her second book and memory materials to try and pass her love on into the future that she can't be part of with her children. What an absolute star she's been.
Yeah, Catherine, your expertise in palliative care and just looking at some of Deborah's words, she said, right now it's all about taking it a day at a time, she says, step by step, being grateful for another sunrise, my whole family around me, and we will dance through this together. You're all incredible. Thank you for playing your part in my journey. No regrets. Enjoy life, Deborah. I mean, the sentiments there at this stage in her life, I mean, they're so in keeping with all of us who've spoken to her, as you have over the years, and those people have watched. They're so in keeping with what she's already shown us. But this is a different time, isn't it? This is another stage.
This is a different time. And yet, you know, over a career in palliative care of 30-something years, I've met a lot of people who are in the position of knowing that they are now approaching the end of their lives. They don't wake up in the morning thinking, I'm dying. They wake up in the morning and they think, oh, I'm living, and what am I going to do today? And what's today going to bring? So I think it is really important, if we're trying to support people who are our family or friends at the very end of life, it's important we know what to expect. It's important we understand the process of just gradually being more weary. And Deborah's already talked about this, hasn't she? That she's sleeping most of the day now. And that there are not going to be unusual and sudden surprises, that gradually people are less awake, they gradually become unconscious. It's possible there'll be periods of being a little bit muddled in between. And so being able to just speak calmly and remind people what's going on around them is really important. And at the very, very end of somebody's life, they're just unconscious all the time. And when we're unconscious, the only bit of our brain that's still working is the part that drives our breathing. So we'll see unusual breathing at this stage in life that we wouldn't see under other circumstances. Breathing moving between fast and very much slower, moving backwards and forwards between very deep and quite shallow. And at the very, very end, just shallow breathing, long pauses, and eventually a breath out that just doesn't have another in-breath after it. And a lot of parents like Deborah have said to me, you know, is it going to frighten my children if they're in the room? No, it's not. We can't make it not be sad, because it is goodbye. But knowing what to expect makes it not frightening. And if families know what to expect, then they're not frightened to go in and out of the room, to be themselves, to chat, to sing and dance if that's what they want to do. We know that people can still hear, that the brain is still responding to sound very, very late in this process. So let's bring ourselves, let's talk, let's reminisce, let's be present, and let's be less afraid. And Deborah's campaigning has brought this to public attention. It's fantastic.
And Catherine, just on a last thought, and thank you, I mean, because you're talking about it in a very real sense, which is part of the point of this, and so people want to understand that. If you've got an image of Deborah, I'm just thinking, you know, I have from many times we've spoken to her, what would that be? It's like a moment in time.
It's an image of Deborah and Lauren and myself all trying to get from the Salford studios to the station to get a train back down to London, where we were all working the next day. And just the absolute hilarity of being with them, trying to run. And she was in these ridiculously beautiful high-heeled snakeskin shoe boot things. And we're trying to run. She's staggering along, looking gorgeous, turning heads, and just being radiant.
Yeah, a lot of people have those kind of thoughts around her. Thank you so much. As Dr. Catherine Mannix, a former palliative care consultant and author, just talking about Deborah James.
Do you know the thing about Deborah is she's fabulously glamorous in any circumstance. Be her, hi, Mike. You know Deborah well. You've done events, sporting events with her. Just